Did Kevin just resist her attempts in this regard? Here, JOA, or Joan of Arcadia, offers a rare but welcome glimpse into issues of disability, race, and white privilege. This exchange establishes race and disability as potential points of alignment and misalignment between Kevin and Rebecca. Whereas Kevin perceives his disability as a barrier that both marginalizes him in the workplace and alienates him from Rebecca, she suggests that her ethnic minority status affords her an empathetic window into his newfound marginalization and his white male privilege. Specifically, Rebecca will not let Kevin believe that his marginalization as a disabled person erases his privilege as a white, attractive, and smart man. But she also offers him an opportunity to navigate these struggles without self-pity or self-congratulatory liberalism, which he firmly rejects. This is a bold interventionist move on the part of the show's writers. Whereas whiteness persists by remaining unstated and unmarked, the writers create a narrative circumstance that shines a light on Kevin's whiteness. This scene is one of several instances that push the boundaries of how race is discussed in primetime TV. This scene goes one step further by placing disability on the table as well. Race is pit against disability by two equally impassioned young people, Kevin and Rebecca, in ways that ultimately sidestep concerns about who has suffered the most to center on several richer and morally laden questions. How will I be known, both now and in the future? What kind of person will I be? How will I respond to cruelty and simplifying generalizations based on race, disability, and or gender? In posing these questions as prerequisites for their learning to relate to one another, Rebecca has undertaken her first act as Kevin's moral compass. Now, while it's certainly important to remember that whiteness is complex and crisscrossed by other identifications that can change its meaning, Kevin's inability to see his white male privilege by virtue of his disability and suffering makes him intolerant and even hostile to Rebecca's intervention. Kendall notes that this is typical of many white and even liberal whites, especially if they perceive themselves to be marginalized in some way. Kendall writes, "For those of us who are white and are disabled, gay, lesbian, or straight women, our experiences of being excluded from the mainstream hides from us the fact that we still benefit from our skin color. By seeing ourselves as removed in some way from the privileged group, we may be all the more deaf to our silencing of people of color. White privilege," Kendall adds, "enables many European Americans not to see race in themselves and to be angry, like Kevin, at those who do." If Rebecca has the last word in this conversation, Kevin exacts the figurative last word near the episode's end. He interrupts the conversation between Rebecca and Andy to deliver an eloquent and pithy exposition on the difference between a hoodie and a poncho. I wonder if I can play this. I wonder if it'll show up. Because the way it goes down is a beautiful thing. I hope you guys can forgive me. This is a bit sloppy. I didn't want this to be here, but. Sorry.
If that's the party favor you want to take out of here, I can't stop you. I'll capture things and go.
This is the last time that happens, okay? All right. I want you guys to see how this goes down.
No, it looks exactly the same.
But the top is tight, but both get moisturized.
A hoodie is a sweat jacket with a hood. It applies to a zip-up or a pullover. A poncho is a triangular piece of knitting fabric with a hole in it, often currently experiencing a comeback. If you'll excuse me, I have work to do.
All right. Some reviewers suggested that Kevin's comment served as a rejoinder to both Andy and Rebecca. They surmised that he had justifiably thumbed his nose at Andy for calling him an inept fact checker, and at Rebecca too for her insensitive reference to his wheelchair dependency. But I'm not entirely convinced that Kevin meant for his speechifying to be taken that way, or that Rebecca in particular received it as such. First, I don't know if you guys noticed, but Kevin directs his commentary to Andy in particular. Secondly, if one looks closely at Rebecca and Andy's faces in this scene, one will notice that Andy's expression is one of embarrassment, whereas Rebecca is looking at him with a sense of pride. Yeah, well, I'm not going to wait for that. Okay. I identified deeply with Rebecca's gaze and its antecedents and saw in it a moment of tremendous possibility, both for primetime TV and everyday life. First, she outs Kevin's white privilege, that elusive everything and nothing quality of whiteness that pervades media depictions and everyday culture, without apology. Okay? Then after he delivers his retort, she does not acquiesce through an apology or inflated gratitude. Instead, she looks at him and appreciates the part of him that is accountable to and for the lessons of their prior exchange. In my mind, she beckons viewers to extrapolate similar lessons and accountability concerning whiteness. Now, what does Kevin ultimately take from this pivotal conversation? He deduces that Rebecca would not pity him, and he reminds her of this in future episodes. But, and this is what I stress, as the show progresses, Kevin displays far less enduring appreciation for Rebecca's insights into his privilege as a white male. The latter lesson is not one he seems to retain. Rebecca in turn displays heightened sensitivity to Kevin's struggle with his disability, but seems to forget the racialized aspect of their relationship as the sexual tension increases between them in subsequent episodes. In fact, Rebecca begins to assume more of a caretaking role, shielding Kevin from reporters' cynical remarks about his father, Chief Girardi, and nurturing his natural talents as a writer. There are ways in which she's especially protective of him that kind of gets her in trouble. Arguably, her efforts to protect him are a testament to her fairness as a journalist and her mounting concern for Kevin's sense of well-being at work. Nevertheless, there remain risky interventions that jeopardize not just Kevin, but also her own moral standing. Specifically, some of her interventions jeopardize her own hard-won status as an ethical news journalist who does not tolerate favoritism or respond, in one case, Chief Girardi is accused of having officers who are engaged in police brutality. There's a huge Rodney King-like beating, and the reporters are sitting around talking about it. And she, as the editor, stops their conversation. She says, "Oh no, I think the chief is doing the right thing. I think it's okay." So when she does these kinds of interventions, it jeopardizes her hard-won status as a kind of editor who does not respond lightly to police brutality against unarmed African Americans. Now, one important consequence of Rebecca's intervention is that she is no longer challenging Kevin. Instead, she is protecting and comforting him in the midst of a racially charged situation that is in some ways more challenging than their initial exchange. Okay? Rebecca's continued interventions on behalf of Kevin and then his father will eventually undermine her hard-won reputation. A perfect case in point occurs when she, Kevin, and other reporters view a subsequent televised statement after that Rodney King beating-like thing. Rebecca continues to take the chief's fairness and goodness at face value. After Chief Girardi announces in this televised report that the officers involved in the beating will be indicted and apologize to the victim's family, a skeptical reporter named Dave turns off the TV and scoffs and says, "Okay, we'll see if it happens." Rebecca then ventures not one but two caveats that are meant to trouble this reporter's read. She says, "He just sat there indicting the guys." When Dave retorts, "Yeah, so a white jury can exonerate them," she adds, "Well, that's not up to the chief of police." Incredulous, Dave, the reporter, asks, "Since when do you defend the cops?" When Rebecca struggles to form a coherent response, he cuts her off by saying, "Maybe you're just hot for his son." Okay. The newsroom clears on that awkward and it turns out truthful note, leaving Rebecca and Kevin to sort through the aftermath. Now, what's troubling for me is that Dave's remark, is that it points to toward the fact that at this point in the series, race and matters of fairness have been displaced by a focus on the sexual tension between Rebecca and Kevin. Now, to be fair to the series, these issues do not fall away entirely. Indeed, they receive some attention from Kevin and Rebecca, but more as fleeting acknowledgments than subjects for serious consideration. Towards the end of their fractured courtship, other complicating factors will emerge that attest to the writer's attempts to complicate their relationship. These factors include Rebecca's status as Kevin's boss, what Kevin calls Rebecca's big honkin' education, their age differences, Kevin's disability, and his concern that he was hired because of his relationship to the police chief, and ultimately Kevin's insecurities around intimacy. These factors emerge as necessary and even welcome complications in the budding romance between the two characters. Yet most of them are dismissed as irrelevant, since what really scares Kevin is coming to terms with his sexual identity following his accident. Sexual desire, or more precisely, fears about sexual dysfunction, will trump all other factors in his relationship with Rebecca. I want to use the final minutes that I have to play a clip that shows a similar dynamic playing out between another African-American female protagonist, Lieutenant Tony Williams, who is the partner to Chief Will Girardi. And, well, what happens is that, Kevin writes an editorial. He's now a writer thanks to Rebecca's mentorship. He writes an article indicting the chief of police's zero tolerance policy for graffiti